Hi guys, I'm going to try and make this one quick for you. It's just an example of an A-level source question that I've attempted to answer just to try and give you an idea of maybe how we're going to cover it and how maybe you can attempt to cover it in your exams. So I'm going to go from opening the exam paper. The first maybe 4 things to consider as you do that is just to plan and know your timings, writing a plan to help get you through and know how much time you're going to spend on each question. It can be really beneficial, just in feeling a bit more in control of the exam. You need to read the question first without rushing into the sources, just to give you a kind of feeling of what it is you're looking for, so you can filter out information as you're going through, also to help with time periods and context as well, maybe just to help get down what you know about that time period. We're not looking for introductions in these. Introductions score you 0 marks, near enough, because you're not actually referencing the sources as you're going through them, so you can spend time writing and not scoring yourself marks. Just don't pop them in there. Start straight with analysing the sources as they are. And then we're going to get through to reading sources. So this is one I've picked out. It's based around the Cold War. It's an area that I feel quite strong in, so I think I can get some quick thoughts down here for you. If you have any ideas for topics you want to cover in the future, anything you want to see me make some videos on, the topic's not really important. It's more just kind of getting across the skills that are being used here. The question at the bottom is highlighted. We're looking at referencing these 2 sources that are above, understanding the historical context. To understand which one is more valuable, looking at significance of Berlin to East-West relations in 1961. So what do I need to do to answer the question? I've highlighted some parts there. I need to know what is happening in 1961, what's happened recently up until 1961, and what are relations like at the points in the sources that are mentioned. I need to know the importance of Berlin in these East-West relations. So maybe the geography and maybe the way Berlin split, for example, could be quite important in knowing that. Also, which one of these sources is more valuable? I need to be looking at how I judge that as we go through as well. And I also need to remember that by all accounts, all historical sources are valuable. The difference in this type of question is reliability. Usually because something is not reliable, it actually doesn't mean it's not valuable. All sources are valuable in one way or another. It just depends on what you're looking at when you're discussing how valuable it is. So what I've highlighted here in source A, I've tried to keep it reasonably clear. The context that you're given at the top of the source is slightly italicized and highlighted in different color. It's a radio and television broadcast made by President Kennedy to Americans in July 1961. The points that are highlighted here I'm going to be discussing on the next slide, so you can pause this here if you want to have a quick read through that, but I'm going to jump straight to the next slide. So looking at provenance here, we're going to go straight into a point of understanding the value of the source. It's shown in an official US position. It's Kennedy, it's on the radio, it's to American people. It's broadcast shortly after the Vienna summit, where Kennedy met and spoke with Khrushchev. Kennedy leaves that conference actually feeling quite almost bullied by Khrushchev, and for his part, Khrushchev leaves feeling quite superior over Kennedy, kind of feeling that he's a bit of a weak leader. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the failed Bay of Pigs invasion that happened not long before. There's quite a defiant tone across this source. Kennedy's shown and being defiant, saying that essentially that US won't be pushed out of Berlin. And the geography involved in that is essentially Berlin being a beacon of hope or beacon of freedom across the Eastern Bloc. Berlin being a vast number of miles actually inside the Iron Curtain. And it has value for showing the future stance of America as well. So understanding actually that Kennedy has ideas of continuing this hard line towards Khrushchev going forwards, or at least keeping Berlin as that beacon for time to come. So actual content that was highlighted in there is sort of showing the stressed importance of West Berlin being a symbol of freedom, understanding that actually Berlin is seen as an escape hatch for refugees from Eastern Germany and the Eastern Bloc in general, and actually with a soft border, so no physical border at the time of writing that source, people could basically come and leave East and West Berlin as they pleased. There's actually a sort of footfall of about 2,000 people per day fleeing from the east to the west, based mainly around kind of the living conditions and economic sort of weaknesses of the Eastern Bloc or policies that have been implemented in the East, or at least Eastern Berlin as well at this point. So it also blames Khrushchev for the tensions that have arisen in Berlin. So there's some key points. We're going to move straight into source B. Again, highlighted the same. We're looking at an official communication to the US, so not necessarily to the public, on the 17th of August 1961. And this is in response to an American claim that building the Berlin Wall was illegal. So this source actually written just 4 days after the Berlin Wall was erected, sort of almost overnight, to try and stop people from leaving East Berlin to the west. One key point to mention is to make sure that you don't get too caught up in this being an official response. The line official doesn't necessarily mean that it's being given by, say, Premier Khrushchev, or is actually being made by a reliable source of any shape at all. And generally the tone you get from it is actually just it's a source that's been used to attempt to justify the building of the Berlin Wall, but mainly through propaganda and that bombast tone that's trying to basically blame Americans for the reasons why they had to build that wall. The whole point of this being that it's actually untrue, some of the claims that are made. That limits reliability. And in some ways, when you're looking at the two sources together, reliability does play a bit of a part in here. It takes away some of the value when you're actually looking at the true situation in Berlin at the time. So that's another point just to consider. The content actually within it is showing the full support of the GDR, the German Democratic Republic, due to the flood of people leaving the east, which, as I mentioned, is about 2,000 per day. It's essential to build. It's seen as essential to build the wall to keep people in, and it's also a measure short of war. So regardless of how much actually Khrushchev is talking up his strength and power, he doesn't want to go to war over Berlin. And in actual truth, West Berlin was a good base for US intelligence services at the time, and it was easily achieved within the Eastern Bloc as well. In reality, the harsh economic climate through the communist ideology is one of the main factors that force people to flee, and also families living across borders as well. So when I'm coming to write the answer, as I mentioned at the start, I'm not looking to write an introduction. I'm going to tackle each source separately, starting with source A and then going into source B. But where those two, starting like that, has the potential to separate the answers, there needs to be that link between them, and there needs to be that the free-flowing writing, so it's not just blocked off. The main point you'll always hear me talking about is to make sure that what you're writing is answering the question. Anything you're writing that's not answering the question, is outside the time period the question mentions, is going to score you 0 marks, and you also need to write a conclusion. So here is actually a summary of the sort of the situation and the answer that I'd make to this, or the answer I'd give to this question. I've got a short conclusion in there as well. It may be slightly built on that conclusion depending on how much time I've got and how much I actually want to get in there. It answers the question in sort of sorting out how valuable the sources were, which one was more significant, and also just sort of understanding some of the context in there. So again, you can pause that to read that through if you need to. I'm going to just jump straight into the final slide, which is just to thank you for watching. I just want to ask about what you think of the length of this video. Obviously, we've run into sort of 9 minutes, just over. Would you prefer to see shorter videos, bite-sized videos on key skills, or do you like sort of more detailed, longer videos? If you can let me know in the comment section below, it'd be great. Thank you for watching. If you found this useful, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. Leave comments below asking any questions you have, and I'll see you in the next video.